How does one come to know the sea's dark secrets? Monsters. Are they real?
Hi, welcome to What the Flick. Christy and Alonzo and Matt. We're going to get really cozy here on this one shot the entire time.
Right.
It's like Birdman, but we're not going to go anywhere. We're talking.
Hope you like it, because this is all you get.
Just like
week.
every other review
Yeah.
that never goes anywhere.
Yeah, we are. We're in studio makeover.
Yeah,
mode.
Studio B.
So we are here in a closet. So Matt's going to tell you about
No,
a
we're
big movie called In the Heart of the Sea.
In the Heart of the Sea is a story about a whaling ship called the Essex and how it got attacked by a whale. This is the story that inspired Herman Melville's Moby-Dick. In fact, a very young Herman Melville is played here by Ben Whishaw.
Ben Whishaw, he's everywhere.
Who gets the story of what happened on this whaling vessel and how it was destroyed and how some of the survivors had to go to extreme measures to survive. Let's watch a clip.
Promise me to come back.
I'll come back as quick as a summer's night, I swear.
Normally, a captain gets to choose his first mate.
An experienced captain, yes.
Centuries before, sailors feared sailing off the edge of the earth.
All hands on deck!
But we were headed for the edge of sanity.
I believe you have seen things no one else has seen.
What is it?
So it's true.
Yes. Too much is true.
Yeah, this is way more extreme than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Right?
Really?
I thought it was going to be like Everest on a boat.
No, it's more like Alive on a boat.
Yeah, no, it gets gnarly.
Yeah.
Because they get hungry and they have to eat.
Right. Now look, like if you're complaining spoilers, this all happened years ago.
This is real.
Yeah,
So-
there's a nonfiction book about it. It's
Right.
history.
Okay.
Right, there's no spoiling history.
Spoiler alert.
I don't know. It's weird when you have this notion of a movie that is, it's the story that inspired Moby-Dick. And it's like, well, that's what we have Moby-Dick for.
Yeah.
You've really got to come back with something that's special and interesting to tell this story from the, like they say in The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. If you're going to publish the fact and not the legend, then the facts better be really great. And I don't know that the characters here are strong enough. I mean, the spectacle certainly is. The CG whales are on point. Like, they look great.
Yes, they're seamless CG whales.
Yeah,
Especially the big one.
Totally, yeah, and the whaling sequences are really interesting. I mean, you've got these guys that are just in rowboats with ropes and harpoons, and that's it.
Like, who knew?
To
Yeah.
these things are like the size of a bus.
Yeah, I mean that's the best thing about this movie is that it's 6 guys out in a boat like chasing out a whale that is 5 times their size, the size of a school bus, and you realize like, oh, okay, whalers were badass, and it was also gross.
Yes.
I mean, like it was super gross.
Yeah.
There's one scene where
Right.
a kid's got to climb inside
The
of this
carcass.
giant whale carcass.
Right.
But also, they're badasses, but they're also probably not all that qualified to do this. Because as they say early on, like, they're just random criminals who are like on the run and they want to go hide at sea for a year and a half. So I'm not sure they're all like highly trained whaling experts.
Professionals, yeah.
Right, and look, like we know from the history of sailing, like people would get shanghaied, like, oh, we just need a warm body, like let's grab that guy, right? And there's a fair amount of people, like the young kid that's in this, that we kind of see a lot of this from his point of view, is kind of just thrown into this, and it really is kind of literally like sink or swim, like learn on the job. And he's the small guy who gets told like, oh, you got to get in the whale and pull that crap out, and it's just.
Yeah,
Ooh.
there's this back and forth kind of bookend structure where, like, in 1850, Brendan Gleeson is telling the story to Ben Whishaw, and then it turns out that the kid 30 years earlier is, Brendan Gleeson's character. So yeah, so you have Chris Hemsworth.
Is it only 30 years?
Yeah, it's 1820
that's
to
hard
1850.
living,
Yeah.
that poor kid turns.
I was going to say, yeah.
He drank a lot. He had demons. He drank a lot. But yeah, as a spectacle, this is a Ron Howard movie, and as a spectacle, it's great looking. The characterization is a little thin, right?
Yeah.
So the wealthy scion to the whaling fortune who is totally ill-equipped to be the captain is like kind of horrible all the time, and then Chris Hemsworth is always brave and true.
Right.
And
Apparently, this
better
is also the story that inspired Mutiny on the Bounty.
Oh, really?
Well, no, but it feels like that, right? Like it's like
they're very familiar types,
yeah,
for sure.
they're very familiar types. I have to point out Chris Hemsworth. Awful Boston accent.
All of
At
them
any
awful.
moment,
Anyone
you
for
expect
Chowder?
you expect at any moment he's going to pock his car and Harvard Yard. Like, it's terrible. And what's
Right.
frustrating is like Cillian Murphy sounds fine. Everybody else sounds okay. Like it's a little bit different than we're used to hearing. But I can see that they all kind of consistently sound like that. What they all make a choice that they're all going to sound consistent in their representation of how people on the East Coast sounded at that point, except for Hemshaw, who
Hemsworth.
Hemsworth. Sorry,
He listened to a
Hemsworth-
lot of Mayor Quimby.
or it sounds like he's
Ich
just
bin on Springfield.
right. Or he's been watching too much Good Will Hunting.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you have so Brendan Gleeson and Cillian Murphy are both Irish. Ben Whishaw is English. Chris Hemsworth is Australian, and they're all trying to do Boston with various degrees
Right.
of success. I just found it distracting because he's a good actor. He's a much better actor than his good looks might suggest. But like,
Sure.
he's so hulking in that kind of cramped scenario that it's distracting. Like you never forget you're looking at Thor going after a whale.
right,
There's one
and so
moment
early
we
on-
laughed at where he like he flings himself from the boat with a hatchet in his hand after the whale. You and I were laughing out loud at that.
Right.
He's
and
Thor.
early on, like there's a storm that comes up, and you're like, "Come on, Thor, what are you doing? Like,
You
why
got
are you
this.
Right, like Thor, what's the big deal?"
Hemsworth, I would say, worked really well with Ron Howard on Rush.
Rush was good, yeah,
which
he was
was a
good in that,
terrific
yeah.
movie, and I think the best thing that Ron Howard's done in a long time. This movie slips into a thing that Ron Howard does occasionally that drives me crazy, which is there will be kind of a subtle theme expressed throughout that the audience gets. It should be, it's right there. In this case, it's about the sort of parallels between the dangers of whaling, but we needed the whale oil so much because of our energy needs, and sort of comparing that to the modern petroleum industry. But no, he can't just let it sit there. At the end of the movie, somebody has to say, "Hey, I hear they're digging oil out of the ground now."
Yeah, we got
We
it.
get it, Ron Howard. We get it. That's like in Frost Nixon, when Sam Rockwell would occasionally come out and explain to the audience what was happening, as though we weren't getting it out of Frank Langella's performance. That drives me nuts when directors don't trust the viewers to pick up the clues.
Yeah, it spells a lot of things out for us. Yeah, it's not
Right.
terribly subtle visually, narratively. Anthony Dodd Mantle shot this. We should
Yes.
mention Danny Boyle's usual DP shot this. So it like wallows in the muck and it's gnarly, but it's also like expansive and beautiful and vast.
There's a shot of a ship on fire that looks like an oil painting of the 19th century. Just it lasts for about 10 seconds, but I was like, oh my god, that there are individual moments in this movie that are gorgeous. And like I said, all that whale stuff, I'm sure it's all
Right.
CG, green screen, fakey fake, and
never know.
they pull that off really well. I just wish there was enough of a script to sort of support that stuff.
Okay, so what is your number then, Alonzo Duralde?
What did I say? 4.5?
4.5.
4.5. Yeah, I think it looks great, and the there's excitement, but it's not engaging as a movie.
You?
I give it a 5. The action's good. Everything else is kind of boring.
I'm kind of near you at 5.5, so our average is a 5. And where is it in tomato?
56% on the tomato meter.
Okay, so go see in the Hat of the Sea. Bye.